Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're with us again. And this is Inger, and I have with me Elmo, and this is Brutally Honest Talk Radio.
Welcome to Brutally Honest Talk Radio, where you will learn about an issue minus the BS. We don't always say what you want to hear, but what you need to hear about the issues of the day. Here's your host, Inger, along with Elmo, with his political insight and commentary.
How are you doing today, Elmo?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you, Inger. And what a week. Oh boy.
It's
We got
not.
a full show today. So much packed into this, so much coming on. The Swedes, this little country in Europe that has a population of 10 million people and how they're dealing with the COVID-19.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to talk about Sweden. We're going to talk about the reasons why we are voting for Trump. And then we're going to just go in on Kamala and Biden because we
Oh,
got to, they've given us plenty about them to talk about.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited hearing this news about Sweden and how well they're doing. They're becoming an example for all of Europe and most of the world about how they're handling the coronavirus, basically with their attitudes of people, but also the government and their role and how they're treating it. So, found this video. We're gonna go into that, and this is real interesting. Check it out.
The world we lost. Cafes and restaurants full. People relaxed. No face masks. No panic. American Elizabeth Dacey feels safe here.
I have to say, honestly, I'm glad I'm here in comparison to what I'm watching my family go through in the US.
Jim Ferrula from New York runs a deli and likes Sweden's light touch.
I would say they're pretty much hands off here in Sweden as opposed to hands on.
Yeah, you feel safer here than you would back home.
Oh, definitely. So I'm kind of proud about the way we've handled it.
Sweden kept most of its schools and businesses open. It asked people to socially distance. Half of Swedes live alone anyway. It banned large gatherings, but imposed few other rules. As for Sweden's buses and trains, well, take a look at this. Not a face mask in sight. The government doesn't recommend them, and Swedes follow expert advice.
I would say in Sweden we have had the government and the experts have been really unified in their message. You haven't had that in the US.
When the world locked down, Sweden stayed open. Now some of the countries who had the toughest lockdowns, like Spain, are having a deadly second wave. Sweden is not, or at least not yet.
It's empty.
In Sweden's biggest hospital, the intensive care unit, overwhelmed in the spring, is deserted. From today, nursing homes will allow visitors for the first time in months. But not everyone's happy in a country with few restrictions or masks.
They don't take any care. They don't bother.
This worries you.
Yes, it worries me and it makes me angry.
There have been small protests. Even some Americans are wary.
Everybody feels fairly secure, but they might be getting a little overconfident right now.
Cases of COVID are creeping up. Sweden's high spring death toll, higher than its neighbours, could return. But most Swedes are confident their way works. A pariah state to some, a paragon to others.
So that was very interesting to hear. And I'm looking at the video, and like I said, people aren't wearing masks. The reporter was wearing a mask, the one that was doing the story, and he sounds like he's British, maybe traveled there to do the story. And the woman who said, "I'm concerned," and she's not wearing a mask, so I guess not too concerned.
I think that's all right.
Right. And another thing I want to point out is the message. What I'm seeming to get from this is that herd immunity is in full effect. Like there were people that got sick there 6 months ago. They have had some deaths, but it's not spreading now. It's not growing it. And we're going into the winter now. I don't know if they're on the same latitude and schedule as we are with their seasons,
Right.
but I know that there are spikes in the US now, especially up north, because it's getting colder up there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of to be expected. But the big difference, or the biggest difference between there and here, is that we were hiding in our houses and people were scared to go out and be around each other, and you got to take precaution. But I love how they have not shut things down. Stuff is open. They've continued. They've gone out, and people of all ages. A lot of these people they showed are older people,
Hmm.
and also just to denote, like he mentioned, and he showed the ICU. They got beds like with the bedspread pulled up. Some have got plastic over the bed, like they're not even being used.
Uh-huh.
This is ICU where they didn't have enough room back in June and July. They had people on standby to go in there. Got people in the hallways sitting on stretchers with an IV in their arm, and you know treat them wherever they are. And now it's like you said, it's deserted.
Yeah. And I think there was, I don't, she sounded like a young lady, but she may have been just a regular middle-aged lady or something. But there was one
Mm.
lady that said that the government had some kind of like an integrated message, or everybody was saying the same thing. And I think that's where we could learn, because there were different messages coming out at different times. And
Mhm.
I don't blame the president or anything, but the experts should have gotten on the same page and issued one message. And I think that's what caused a lot of the confusion. Well, stay in and
Yeah.
wear a mask. And then when you come out, you'll wear a mask or don't wear a mask. You're asymptomatic or not symptomatic. It's like, come out with one message.
And also, whereas Sweden is a much smaller country and all trying to get on the same page, like we're a whole book and we have all these different states. Every state has a different governor, and the governor is mandating different laws and messages.
Yes.
So you got messages from on the local level, on the state, and then of course from the president. But I understand what you're saying. It almost seems like in the US, the virus and the spread of the virus was traveling faster than people could meet and get on that page before addressing the country or addressing the public.
Yes, exactly. Because clearly they had more information than they were letting out, which makes sense because they want to
Yeah.
make sure, they're trying to understand it. But
Yeah.
even in the midst of trying to understand it, kind of get on the same page, have
Hmm.
one message out, and go from there. You know. So yeah. But
Now,
yeah,
on
it
a
seems like they're being successful at it, and they're Sweden, they're
yeah.
getting it under control.
And you know what? People are wearing coats over there. It looks like it's cold, and people are just walking the streets. One of the scenes was on a subway train. People are on there sitting a couple feet apart from each other, not wearing masks, reading the paper, kind of like the U.S. 5 years ago. It just looked like a it just looked like an average day.
Regular day.
And then, as a side note, just about the coronavirus, I don't know if you saw North Korea, and they had the Red Parade. They had this thing where it looked like they spent $1 million on a parade of the army and had the red lights and everything was lit up. And they were out there in the square, in the capital, wherever Kim is. And he comes out, and one of the things that he said to the people, he said to these, it's 100,000 people in front of him. He said, like, never fear, there are no cases of coronavirus in North Korea.
Okay, yeah.
He expects people to believe that.
Believe
There's
that. Thank you.
nobody. These men are gods. It's amazing. The only country on earth, you
Doesn't.
know,
Yeah.
Kim
Yeah.
Jong Un. I mean, Saddam Hussein. 100% of the people voted for him. Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? And I think it was a meme going around where North Korea had one, they reported one case, and then the next day zero cases, the next day one case, the next day zero cases. It's like, yeah, keep shooting people and killing them. That's
Yeah,
why there's more
yeah.
cases, you know?
Right.
So, yeah.
This is how we slow the spread. Bam.
Exactly. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then ironically, when Kim was up there giving that speech, he had a mask sitting on the podium.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He didn't wear it, but I'm gonna keep it close by just in case, something may happen where I need to put it on.
Yeah. Just in case. Yeah. Yeah. That's a psycho right there. Something needs to happen to him.
Yeah, so Sweden, good going. I mean, we know that Europe got hit rough, started with Italy, and of course has traveled and jumped around since then. And it's good to see that. And they mentioned Denmark also, which is like half the size of Sweden, and the numbers are comparable, or in proportion to the population of Sweden.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, and you know what? Their politicians and leaders, they don't get paid a lot. They don't get paid like what U.S. politicians get. So they're not. I mean, I'm sure there's corruption, but they're not money grubbing and power hungry power mongers, where they're going to make it political and then lie to stay in power. Is just how it can be in other countries.
Yeah.
So they're working together, and they may actually have side jobs and other things they do. Kind of how senators used to be in the U.S.
Yes.
And they may genuinely care about their people.
Right. And it's not a career. It's a job. They do
Yeah,
it and they go home. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If we want term limits on senators and congressmen, we need to let them stop voting on the term limits. I don't know if that's ever gonna go anywhere. Let's put that on the ballot with the national election about term limits, and let's
That's
see what
it.
happens.
And have them stop voting on their own pay raises too.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
man,
So that's
what a job!
what. Hey.
What a job. I have a question. When a senator gets a paycheck and it's taxed, since they get their money from taxes anyway, do they get a kickback just from the just from the taxes?
You're
Let me
right.
just pass it around back to the same pocket. I don't know. I don't know how it works, but
Circle.
yeah, yeah. Apparently, you don't have to show up a lot of days for work.
Yeah.
So, but moving on now. Moving on. We're talking about Trump, and we're getting close to the election, which is in the next couple few weeks. And yeah, I want us to be specific. But going into the next term in the next 4 years, reasons why we're voting for him. And this is the train of thought and the place where we are. We're not looking at personality and how he talks, or how much of a smooth talker or dresser he is, or a figurehead or image, or none of that. It's about the things that will directly affect people. You know, and I haven't heard what your reasons are yet for this episode, but I'm guessing they're going to be rooted in that.
Hmm. Yes.
And the proof is in the pudding, you
Yes.
know. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. The proof of the pudding is under the crust.
Hmm.
Linus Van Pelt, 1968.
Promises made, promises kept. He said that he would move the embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. That's the first thing he did. He said he did it. He would do it. He did it. Illegal immigration. He said he's going to fight for Americans to minimize illegal immigration, to get the wall built. Guess what? The wall is being built. It's being done. He's obviously a businessman. The stock market, he knows business. Stock market has hit new highs continuously, hit new highs. And we'd be even further along if not for the pandemic. However, we're still in record territory, even with that. So those, and also because in with all of this, he's still not getting a paycheck. He gives each paycheck away to a charity, the Wounded Warriors or the human trafficking charity or something. He's always giving it away. So he's a good man. He is a good man. He's made mistakes. I'm voting for him because he's real. I was telling the friend today, a lot of politicians get up here and when they're trying to ask for a vote, they pretend like that. Yeah, I've never had an argument with my wife. I've never made a mistake. You know, the dog is wonderful. You know, we teach Sunday school every Sunday, and it's just everything is perfect, and we're the perfect family. And you know, they put the pictures out, the dog, the 3.5 or kids, and every. It's like, and Trump just came along and you know what he is? He's been married 3 times. You know, he's
Hmm.
made mistakes. He's done things. However, at the same time, he has done what he said he's going to do, and he's real. He's real. So that's why I'm voting for him. I don't care about quote unquote presidential anymore. Presidential has
Yeah,
gotten us absolutely positively nowhere.
right.
Presidential has gotten us with the kids learning things that they should not be learning in school. That's where presidential has gotten us. So let's chunk presidential and let's go for real. I take
And redefine presidential.
and
You know,
redefine exactly.
you know what that has meant. Yeah, what that has meant in the past. So yeah, there's so much. And you mentioned the stock market, and in 2018 and 2019, the Dow Jones average broke records. It
Yes.
went to heights that it never been to before. I'm
Yeah.
just saying for people may have political amnesia, let's bring it back to a short while ago
Mhm.
and everything, how everything was doing. That's why I said on a previous episode, if you think about Christmas of last year, just look in your own house, in your own living room, and how things were going. Not everybody knows how to keep or hold on to their money, and we know that a fool and his money are soon parted. But
Mhm.
the inflow was coming, the
Yes.
gravy was flowing, money was coming in, even if people would turn around and spend it.
Hmm. That is.
So that's one thing. Yeah, the economy. He's brilliant on the economy. It's no coincidence that he understands it, being a successful businessman and billionaire.
Yeah.
He knows that. He's a guy, oh, and you mentioned he's not taking a check, not getting a salary. So he doesn't want anything from us.
Right.
He is free and fearless and not motivated by money. That's the best way that you can do any job. If you never have to think about money, then
Hmm.
you can jump in and do what you think is right and focus, just the focus on that, and not have to be, petrified because of worrying about my position and my future in this. No, forget it. Listen, I'm going to come in here and do what I said I was going to do what I think is right, and that's it. And if you don't like it, move out of the way or wait for the pendulum to swing back the other way or whatever you want to do. But this is what I said I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And then of course, the tax cuts that he did, which are very helpful, not just for the individuals getting more money in their pocket, but it's a great incentive for businesses. Now we can put more money into reinvesting into the business because it's not going to the government. We can build. We had 2 locations, but now we can mention in the board meeting about having 5 locations and expansion. And every time you expand, you double or triple your staff. And that makes more, more money and more people that are getting taken care of and getting provision. I've always liked that he's not from DC, and I don't mean born and raised there. I mean from a political background. And in the culture of the way that they do things and do politics. That's why so many of these stiff shirts are petrified. The Sam Donaldson types that it's an outrage. The president say hear the president comments to talk like that. Look, when he was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania a few weeks ago, and talking to the people there at that airport, he probably said the word hell like every 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, and people aren't even laughing anymore. It just gets quiet, and they're listening to the things he's saying, not the adjectives. You know what I mean? They're listening to the substance of what he's talking about, and people accept him for who he is and the way that he is, being strong on the military,
Yes.
right? Tim Kennedy, right, who was in special forces, like he's on the same level as Navy SEAL or worse. When he's one of these guys that you could send in to take out Soleimani in the middle of the night, with a small team.
Yeah.
And he was talking, and he wasn't at all trying to criticize or be biased. Like it took like 2 3 questions to get around to this. It just happened to come up, and he said that the biggest difference that I noticed now than from 10 years ago in the military is there's more provision. There's no lack of munitions and different weapons and supplies. But 10 years ago, and we know who was president then,
Right.
they were rationing out stuff. He said we couldn't do our job. We couldn't get on a raft in the middle of the night and go out to a boat and do what was a covert operation off the record. We couldn't do our job. And he said, Trump has made sure that we have had everything we needed. Just speaking on the military, and then of course his philosophy about not getting into wars. Look, I mean, it's a win-win just by not getting into a war with another country. Look at the lives you save. Got to mention that first. The lives you save, and then of course the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because when
Exactly.
we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, how much did that cost? Something like $10 million a day,
It
something like
was
that.
it was up there, and traditionally the economy has been good because we've been in wars. If I'm not mistaken, now don't quote me in terms of which ones, but I remember in recent history, that wars have made the economy go up, and then once we're out of them, or once it's not the big thing anymore, then it seems like the economy goes back down. So,
Hmm.
and but now we have him up there, and like you said, we're not getting out of wars. Our military is being supplied; they're being taken care of as they should be, and our veterans, like you said,
Yeah.
are being taken care of. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because I'd heard a long time ago about the reason that the Japanese bombed the U.S. and went to war with us is they this is what they said. They said that they wanted to jumpstart their economy. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, they said it in Japanese, but the message that they say to their people is why they want to do that. I love the fact that he supports the police.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I mean, it should be only natural to support the police and support law and order.
Mhm.
And Democrats are scared to say that. Amy Coney, she said, like within the last couple of weeks, she said, I love the country and I love the Constitution.
Mhm.
Now, half of Democrats, you're not going to hear them say they love the country because it's hard to come behind that and complain and say what's wrong with the country, you know.
Mhm.
So half of them are not going to say that. And let me know if any Democrat has said that they love the Constitution.
Right. I can't tell you that I've heard that come out of any Democrat's mouth on Capitol Hill.
I'm not going to say that I love my wife, but I'm trying to change her.
Mhm.
That's is a contradiction. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
And of course, that's the reason for packing the courts. The Supreme Court is to try and change the law.
Yep. And like you said, that was a great analogy. They haven't said, no Democrats have said it. Whereas on the flip side, Trump, he's like the best is yet to come, make America great again. I mean, the message of hope,
Yeah,
hopeful,
right.
you know. And like I said, the Democrats aren't giving that message.
And also like how he handled COVID-19. Now understand that people have gotten sick and some people have died. If I were sick, I think, or if I came up with this, it would came down with it, I would still be plugged into the news and the big picture and seeing how things were handled overall.
Hmm.
And when you look at that, when you look at the big picture, you gotta say that we're doing well. And some people, some that are ignorant of facts and statistics and numbers, they say, "Oh, we got way more cases of COVID-19 in Canada." Yeah, Canada got 14 million people in the whole country, and
Right.
it's mostly wilderness.
Hmm.
Is it surprising then that there would be more cases in the United States? I mean, we're one of the, I would say, one of the five biggest countries on the planet.
Hmm.
So what matters is the percentages, not
Ex-
the total numbers.
right. Right.
So I like the way that he handled that, and early on, when they first started coming out with the first vaccine, whether that was hydrochloroquine or whatever it was, and he was telling people, no, working on something, things are in the works, it's coming soon. There's testing and doctors in the lab or developing this vaccine, whatever, to help people. The left, the media is talking about, well, he's giving people false hope. How can you do that? How can you give someone a false hope? Hope has to do with the future, which no one knows. You
Hmm.
can be optimistic about the future, or you can predict or have anxiety or worry that it's going to turn out negative. I choose to be positive about the future. He's
Hmm.
giving people false. Okay, well, maybe he should have got up there and been negative and criticized the scientists and said that they're idiots and hope for the worst, or expect for the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good to me. To me, that's a part of leadership. Again, I don't I don't look for um, a leader or a president to inspire me. Like that wouldn't be anything that would make or break me voting for them. But it is a bonus if it happens, if they inspire me, if they provide leadership, if they tell me things, like his Mount Rushmore speech on the level of ask not what your country can do for you. I mean, people need to hear that.
Yes.
Let's go in on the illustrious Kamala and Mr. Biden and talk about their antics. Gotta devote a little bit to them. Um, One thing I want to say about Kamala, I'm sorry, I've been pronouncing her name wrong. So now I understand it's Kamala. So Kamala Harris literally being grandfathered in to the White House or to the presidency. And I'm not just saying this because Biden is old enough to be your grandfather. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying because the Democrats know, and we were talking about how Biden may last a couple of years and
Mhm.
then would have to step down if he got in there. And they know that. And they wanted someone who, was not as old as him or didn't have the cognitive problems, and it could take over and pick up. And I was saying 2 years. Some other people say a year and a half. Look, the Democrats aren't even waiting. They want to make this happen quick. Nancy Pelosi is already talking about the 25th Amendment,
Yes.
and not for Trump either. They already tried to bring that up. They know that's not going to work. They got a better chance of impeaching Trump than coming up with something saying, well, he's not qualified or showing that he has, the physical or mental capability to keep going. I, I believe that if he got in there, we talking about like in March or April, because the Democrat Party is divided anyway. It's divided against itself. We know that when we can look at the wing of AOC and Sanders and the division within the party, and I believe that they would come against Biden if he didn't want to leave, and they would try to get him out there and put Kamala in, because Kamala is more left than Biden is.
Yes, she is.
Biden is more of a puppet and closer to the middle. From all I know, the reason why he's been in politics this long is to get a check.
Right.
That's it. I can't really say or think of any reason.
Hmm.
So, Nancy Pelosi is already they're already talking about this, and they wouldn't wait. I mean, I would expect that in 3 or 6 months, Biden would basically be the same man that he is today. I believe they would want this transition to happen soon so that they could have more of that 4 year period for Kamala to build her presidential resume and already start campaigning for 2024.
Yeah. I don't put it past them. I really don't. I mean, and that's one thing the Republicans really need to work on. Democrats think in 50-year blocks. We think in 4-year blocks. So we've got to do the long game. And we have not been doing that. And that's where we've been caught flat footed. So, but yeah, they're thinking ahead. They're putting who they want out there and setting the stage.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I want to bring back up the debate with Harris and Pence, and we talked about how she lied like at least 3 4 times,
Hmm.
and one time saying, uh, when we get in office, Biden is not going to raise taxes on people that make under $400,000 a year.
Hmm.
And then Pence came right back and said, but he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts, which is just like raising taxes.
Yes.
And then she tried to deny it. He said, this man, he just said it last week that he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. All right. And that would affect you and me and everybody that makes under under 400. Yes, it's kind of strange, the salary of the president $400,000. Anybody makes 399,000 or less, we're gonna repeal those tax cuts, baby.
And I can promise you that folks that make 400,000 over, they're gonna make it such that it looks like they make less than $400,000 a year. I
Yeah,
mean,
right,
with
right.
78,000 pages of tax code, who wouldn't? I mean,
Let, let me get my
that's
Swiss bank account on the phone. You
right.
know, offshore accounts, get ready, because people, rich people, they want to protect their money,
Absolutely.
right?
Little people, not unrich people want to protect
Yeah,
money. Yeah.
yeah.
And
But I'm saying, like, people can put their money in the shelters or
yes,
send it out of country, and then even the rich people that don't do that, they'll just sit on their money and not spend it,
that's it. Hmm.
and which is bad for the economy. We need rich people to go shopping. When rich people go shopping, people pay college tuition for their kids, and all kind of great stuff happens.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
that just speaks to the confidence of the economy in the future.
Yes, it does. It truly does.
And then another thing I failed to mention with the debate with Biden and Trump, Trump asked him a good question. He said, name one organization that endorses you or that said that they support you. And
Yes.
Biden didn't say anything. He just hung his head down, and had no response. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, Biden, why didn't you say that the NAACP supports you? You said it on a commercial.
Right. That is a very good point.
He paid money for advertisement. And I said, oh, well, the debate is national TV and he's talking to everybody. He's not just talking to black people. So, maybe he's not going to bring that up, or unless it's not true. I don't know.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I mean, do they? I don't know. And I'm sure, just like the NAACP, you can say Planned Parenthood. I'm sure supports them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, uh,
They
interesting,
probably have his picture on the sign when you're walking into the clinic.
right?
You know,
Man,
right on the entrance. Be the poster boy for man. That just they're lying in the titles now. Just think about the irony of that. Is uh, uh, Planned Parenthood to call it that. That's
yeah.
like you're about to go skydiving, and the name of the company that's taking you up there is calling it the Skywalking Company. We're gonna do some skywalking. You gonna just walk out of the plane, and then You'll be walking in the clouds.
You
You'll
know,
be free falling at 50 miles an hour, but you know
yes.
we're gonna call it skywalking. Let's just change the name.
And that's what they've been doing. You know, they changed. What was it? Packing the court. They're now calling it judicial reform. So
Oh
be
boy,
yes, yes,
yeah,
yeah, yes. So be careful.
yeah. That's like the thing I want to change the manhole covers to person hole covers.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Don't change the substance of it. Just change what you're calling it. Yeah, it's like it's doing the same thing.
Right, right. Let's make it inclusive. That makes people feel like they're part of the tribe. We'll call it inclusive. You
Yeah.
know, I remember back in the day we had Ace Hardware. The jingle was Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, man.
Mhm.
Can't say that now. It's a helpful hardware person
Oh,
because some special interest groups who shop for hammers and screwdrivers, they may get offended. They just might get offended. So look, some good news. It's always brave to me when a celebrity, someone in music or film, they come out and not just endorse Trump, but just to say that they vote Republican or they're conservative. So
mhm,
I'd already seen like a couple of days ago, Kirstie Alley.
mhm,
She said, "I'm about to vote for Trump for the second time,"
mhm.
meaning she voted the first.
Yeah.
And she said her main reason for that is because he's not from DC or not a traditional politician.
Mhm.
So, you know how it is in Southern California and Hollywood and Los Angeles.
Yes.
And Tim Allen said that the people that say that they vote Republican, it's like Nazi Germany for them. Like that's probably one of the biggest community of silent Trumpers in the country.
Yes. I believe it
And
because
people just the persecution that comes with that. And then you got people like Alyssa Milano. They try to come to Georgia and tell people to boycott Georgia because of the films that are done here. There's more movies that are filmed in Georgia now than anywhere else,
mhm,
because of the tax cuts.
yes.
So she's telling people to boycott Georgia and Georgia businesses. She doesn't even live here. But because
Well,
she,
can
yeah, go
she
ahead.
even get a job? When was the last time she actually acted in
Who's the
anything?
boss?
It's okay.
No, I don't know,
I'm
but
serious. I mean, it's like
yeah,
she's telling people, "Oh, don't come here because of X, Y, and Z." Um, but it's like, well, you can't get a job. It's like acting,
yeah. But
So
she may have some money in her pocket or in her bank account, so she doesn't understand the impact of how it is for other people and actors like myself. Sometimes go out and do work and get paid, and there's big productions that happen here, and even I mean, think about this, Alyssa. That some of the people that you want to boycott who just happen to work or have businesses in Georgia, they vote Democrat. So you're hurting them.
Mhm.
But just to hell with that whole state, because I think it was around the time the election with Kemp and Abrams,
Mhm.
Stacey Abrams with the governor election, and because people didn't vote the way that she wanted them to. But anyway, so Kirstie Alley and also John Voight, who is also an actor, and for the people again that are under 40, Angelina Jolie's father, who's been
Yes.
an actor since she was a little girl, and John Voight, he was on a Republican convention. Like they had a segment with a video of him speaking and talking about why people should vote for Trump. So these people are much more famous and known than me, and it's just very courageous for them to do that.
Absolutely. They're putting their livelihoods on the line. And yes, they make a lot of money. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like you said, folks get blackballed in Hollywood because of who they support. Mhm.
Right, and then just today, like literally right before the show, I found out about 50 Cent,
Mhm.
right? On Yahoo in their headlines, just a quick just a quick mention of him, and it said 50 Cent says vote for Trump after Biden reveals proposed tax plan. And I said, what? And then I went into it and I found a few different articles. He said on Monday, rapper turned media mogul turned to Instagram while he claims he's voting for Trump because of Joe Biden's new proposed tax plan. And he said, I just remembered I'm bankrupt, so I'm looking for a gracious loan. Can anybody help a brother out?
Mm.
But there's something else. Let me jump to that. Let me jump to that real quick. It says 50 Cent endorses Donald Trump, says he doesn't care if Trump doesn't like black people. Good. Thank you. Thank you for saying that because we need to stop wanting people to like us.
Mhm.
And it has nothing to do with how politics and laws on the books can affect your life. It ain't personal, it's business.
Mhm.
So since 50 Cent has had a change of mind and took to social media to endorse Trump in the past, Fifth made it clear he wasn't rocking with Trump and called him out for how he responded to COVID-19. Now 50 singing a different tune. So it sounds like Hot 97 that they're calling him a hater or talking about him like he's an idiot. But I'm kind of sifting and sorting through that for the facts of what happened and what he said.
Okay.
So on 50's Instagram posted Biden's alleged tax plan for some states. This caused 50 to do a 180 on supporting Biden. And then they have a video picture of it on the screen. But first, let me tell you what 50 said. He said, and it's like starred out or bleeped out, said, what the F? Vote for Trump. I'm out. Wrote 50, endorsing Trump as president of the United States. He said, F New York. The Knicks never win anyway. I don't care Trump doesn't like black people. 62%? Are y'all out of your effing mind? And so I didn't know what that was talking about. And then I scrolled down, and this is exactly what it said. This is a picture. This is like off of television on some news channel, clearly. And it says, top tax rates by state under Biden tax plan. California, 62.6%. New Jersey, 60%. New York State, 58. And then again, New York City is the same rate as California, the state. New York City at 62%.
Woo. So that takes 62% of your money off the top. That's what that's saying.
That's worse than France. I
Hmm.
know somebody that lived in France and was telling me how France is socialist. They take 50% of your check.
Wow.
And then they got all these young people in their 20s who aren't in college or doing anything, but they're in the kind of apartments that you would find in Buckhead
Wow.
because the government, is paying. Well, somebody else is working,
Hmm.
and their tax dollars are paying for these young people to sit around and float around or do whatever they want to do. So
Right.
I saw that. I said, "Is that federal? They're talking about federal tax out of your check." That is before you get to state or anything else.
Yes, that is.
So
And what was I going to say? With that, what is it? Yeah, and people scream for socialized health care, all that sort of stuff, and they don't realize where it's coming from.
yeah,
At that rate, I guess the young people over in France are like, why even work? Because it's going to go
yeah,
to somebody else anyway. I mean, there's no incentive to work because there's nothing there for them. When you work, they take half of your money. Why work when you
and
can have the same lifestyle without doing anything? Which is
yeah.
eventually that's gonna crash, but there's
And
no
what
incentive.
what this what this is doing with young people, it causes them to never grow up. So
Mm,
they're all living like they're still in high school,
that's very true.
which is what is high school? It's basically a social life. You have to study and go to class and learn, but that's going to class not the same as working. It's not the same as having your own money. Might have a small job, might get an allowance, might have a part-time job, but we all went to high school with kids who their parents spoiled them and they gave them a car and they had designer clothes and all of this and everything's peachy. So it's like because they haven't been grown that long, first of all, they come out of high school and then go right into this thing
Mhm.
where it's like they can continue with because there's a lot of that. There's nightlife and you got Starbucks over there or wherever it is, or people can just uh, they feel it's a passive kind of existence where
Yes.
look, you take care of whatever you want to do on the other side of the clouds. I don't need to see it. As
Mhm.
long as the sun is shining, that's all that matters. As long as I can feel the heat, I would go out here and hang with my friends and spend 2-3 hours on Twitter every day. And I don't eat or own any of the cost of what it takes to take care of myself and the cost of living and to take care of life.
Exactly. Like you said, that's going to be interesting to see the long term effects of that.
But
25, 30
mhm.
years from now, what does that look like?
Now you're talking about in France.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then jumping back to Kamala, I mentioned to you before about the debate, and I thought something that Pence could have nailed her on was for him to say, "Why did you call Biden a racist?"
Mhm.
And now how do you feel? you know and
Mm.
then the other thing I think, which would be just as powerful as that or more, would be if Pence had asked her, live national TV. It's the perfect place to do it where you can't edit it or nothing. And Pence saying, do you still believe Biden's accusers? Do you still believe that the women who accused him of sexual assault were right? And then just let her, worm her way through that.
Yes. Yes.
Because whatever her answer is, yes or no, she would have some explaining to do. And it makes me say, what are you? What are you about? What do you stand for? If you believe it. Now she could have just because it wasn't a debate when she said that, but like she said about Biden and her calling him a racist because it was a debate. So she could have not cared at all, which we know and we knew that as soon as the Kavanaugh hearings were over, she and the rest of these people were going to shut up and you weren't going to hear anything else out of them about Kavanaugh. But she was at the Kavanaugh hearings and led the Me Too movement, basically. She was there with some other women, and in the middle of the hearings or someone speaking, she got up and walked out.
Wow.
But I'm so offended. I'm so outraged by this. I'm leaving. And then some other women, followed her out, went out with her.
Yeah.
So, what was all of that? A song and dance? Or is it really, I mean, they didn't even have proof on Kavanaugh. we got proof. I
Exactly.
mean, this woman couldn't remember. It was 30 years ago when she was a teenager and she had a lot to drink and she couldn't remember. That it's a different scenario with Biden, and it's more than one woman.
Mhm. Yes. And still waiting for the press to ask about that. They
Yeah,
definitely not asking her
right.
and definitely not asking him. No one's talking about it.
You
No.
know, I was wondering and hoping if Candace Owens could interview Kamala Harris. You know,
She's not Kamala, whatever. Is not going to step in that. She's not going to step in that arena. They don't.
but
They don't approach or they don't visit or talk to potentially. I don't even want to say hostile outlets, but outlets who will question them, who will not
yeah.
ask what their favorite color is. They're not going to those outlets.
And we've seen Biden say, "I'm putting a lid on it for today. That's it." With Biden and Kamala, they have showed up somewhere to do a quick appearance, make a statement, and then shut it down and walk away. And people are trying to ask them questions, and they just show them their backside and proceed out of the room.
Yep.
They're not. They'll be answering plenty of questions if they get in there. But the same thing about packing the courts. They don't want to reveal the true agenda. A
Right.
lot of a lot of questions they don't have answers for, and then what their agenda is, which is very very clear to the Democrats behind the curtain. They know exactly what they want to do. They're not going to answer these questions or reveal it.
No.
Did I tell you that I voted last week? I
Okay.
did early voting.
Me too.
And this was on Wednesday, and I was planning to find out. I needed to find out where to go. And a couple of weeks ago, I was going into a local grocery store, and there were a couple of women set up in the parking lot, and one of them asked me if I was registered to vote, and I said yes, I am. And it made me curious though, and I walked over to them and I said, "Where would I go for early voting?" And then she just said, basically, depending on where you live, you have to Google and find out where those locations are. There's not as many locations as will be on election day. The number of locations are limited, and it's only like 2 or 3 days a week that people can do it. So I said, okay, that's good to know. And then, Wednesday was going to be the day that I found out about it. My wife and my son went and voted. This is the first election that my son has voted in. And my daughter, even though she's older than him, she wasn't old enough. She wasn't 18, the last election.
Hmm.
So they went ahead and voted. And then when they came back, and she just told me where it was, I said, oh, okay. That's the same place that I voted in the last election. Went there, got in line. It's a recreation center. Got in line at like 3:45 in the afternoon. And at that time, it was like 35 people ahead of me in line. 35 people, just an estimate.
Yeah.
And this is for early voting. So because it was at a rec center, they corralled people into the gym. And then they had everything taped off very well on the floor, mentioning the 6 foot distancing, and had it going like a maze where you go up and down until you get to the door, and then they would take your people five at a time. So I didn't know this, and maybe informing someone else about it, they cut it off at 5 o'clock, which election day, the polls are usually open till 7, I think. So the hours are different also. But at 5 o'clock, what they did was they went to people in the line and gave them a card with a number on it because they were shutting the door and they were stopping to let people in the building at that point. But if you're already in line, you got a number, and
Hmm.
then you give the card back to them once you get in the room with the voting. So a couple things I'll mention about that when we get in there, where we're going to, you got to give them your license, and then they give you the card so that you can put it in the electronic ballot machine. They had us 6 feet apart. Some of us more than that when we were in line. But when we were in the room with the voting booths, it was business as usual. I mean, these booths were right next to each other.
Hmm.
Like, if someone is at the pole next to you, y'all are like 2 feet apart. So it's kind of surprising that they didn't, separate them, pull them apart a little bit, stretch them out, because COVID is still going on. If you're going to do it, then, do it and apply it to everything. That was kind of surprising. And then, I went ahead and went through voting on everything, and it prints out a sheet of paper for you. And by the door, there's a guy who you give the ballot to, the paper ballot, and they scan it into this thing that's almost an exact replica of a trash dumpster, like a Kirby that you would roll from Robert Sanitation or whatever, that you would roll up to your curb for the trash can for the garbage truck to get.
Hmm.
It was almost the exact same size, and like right at what would be the lid or the opening, you scan the paper in there, and ask the guy if it went through or if I need to do anything else. It didn't say does it need to be face up, face down. So I just asked about that. Face up, by the way, just for clarity. And he said that was it. So that's the first time that I voted where there was any paper involved, or a paper ballot that you had to then scan into something.
Yeah, that's a new system. I know that the Secretary of State has had, I guess, challenges, or people have questioned why prior to this there wasn't any kind of audit trail, or somehow people verifying that yes, I did vote the way I did. So with all of that kerfluffle, then here comes the process that you just mentioned. Having printing it out, sliding it into it does look like a big recycling bin, but sliding it into there, it reading it, that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's and then even with that, now we still have people complaining. So it's a no-win situation.
People were complaining about the early voting or something
They
else.
were complaining about the machines.
Oh,
Yeah, they were complaining about the new process, and they had this process during the primaries as well. But that was the first time I think they actually used that
oh,
new way, and then there were some hiccups, as there always are when you're rolling out anything new. But yeah, that's the reason for the machines, folks. I need a paper ballot, blah blah blah.
yeah. Didn't they try that in Florida a long time ago with the paper ballots?
Yeah, right. Hanging chads, and that was a lovely process.
Put it in that barrel that they use at church on Sunday night with the raffle, where you and stick the paper in there and then you crank the thing and turn it around. Oh man, what a mess.
Exactly, exactly. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
Well, my final thought today is going to be that if someone hasn't already done the mail-in votes, which I'm not a fan of that anyway, but if someone was wanting to do that, if you haven't done it by now, don't do it. If you want your vote to count, don't do it. I mean, we're talking about the U.S. Post Office. God bless them. But I would say if someone hadn't already dropped their thing in the mail by October 1st, don't take that chance.
Absolutely. And vote. Do your civic duty. What do you have for us next time?
Well, so this is Monday. There's supposed to be another debate between Trump and Biden on Thursday, and then we'll have second show this week on Saturday. So I'm sure that Thursday's debate that'll give us a lot to talk about. Comment on different tweets on many things related to politics that get posted between now and then.
Okay, awesome. And we look forward to it. Thank you for spending your time with us on this episode of Brutally Honest Talk Radio.
Thank you for listening to Brutally Honest Talk Radio. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, reach out at brutehonestradio@gmail.com. That's BRUT, honestradio@gmail.com.
And leave a review for us wherever you listen to this podcast. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later. Everybody take care and be safe. God bless.